We good?
Good to go.
Recording? Excellent. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the City of Geneva IDA meeting of May 5th, 2023. Call the meeting to order. We do have some minutes for approval, and it goes back to, right? We didn't have a quorum last time, right? Minutes from April 2023, our last meeting. I'd like a motion to approve the minutes.
So second.
Any discussion, any corrections, any things to add? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so passed. Financial report from 2023. Tracy, do you want to, April 2023, do you want to go through that? And
Yep. So we got the downtown winery rent as we do every month, and there was some administrative services between our monthly fee and the EDC project. We did also receive some bills from the Gateway project. Plumley sent a small bill, so that's what you're seeing on the financial statement. Well, actually, you're seeing the administrative fees. We got the Plumley bill after this was already sent out, so that'll be added as well.
okay. Motion to approve the financial report.
So moved.
Second.
Irene and then Rick. Any discussion, any questions?
No.
Okay, Jason?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. On to next. Maureen, I see you're on the line. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Please, how are things at the school district?
Well, busy as they always are. I wanted to just, we did a budget hearing presentation last night, and our vote is coming up on May 16th from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the North Street mini gym in the back. And so we're hoping that we have the community support as we have for so many years. The other thing that's going on is that we're deep into our capital project now. So that's great. We're wrapping up things for the end of the year and starting to see things come on our calendar for like graduation and senior awards and stuff like that. So that we're getting there. But as I always say, I just did a report to the board, the business of school never stops. And so we're already transitioning into a new school year. We're getting ready to hit the ground running on July 1st. And we're juggling a lot right now with moving the Head Start program between buildings. That's been a tremendous undertaking. And then at the same time, you have all the capital project work going on, which most of it right now is outside. We have completely gutted one of our locker rooms, and that's being redone. Needed it badly. The scope of the work is everything from some air conditioning to driveways to PA systems to all those kinds of things, safety that we have to take into consideration. Finally, every year we have the Board of Education does a capital outlay project. We've been waiting for a rooftop unit for our bus garage. It was ordered last September. We still don't have it. So I'm just saying that because everybody's still having supply chain issues, especially when it comes to HVAC and mechanical systems. In 23-24, the board, the Buildings and Grounds Committee has decided to enhance the classroom safety at our North Street School by putting wireless keyless entries in all of the doors and securing them in a way that is approved by the State Education Department. And we'll be doing that with all of our buildings. We're limited. We can only do $100,000 worth of work every year, and it has to be at one building for those kinds of things. So lots of restrictions and stuff that we have to deal with, but we're happy to finally have a state budget that we can live with. So at least some numbers that we can work off of. So that's it for me.
Maureen, were you able to get the summer school program with other districts coming to Geneva?
Yes, so Geneva High School is going to be a regional high school this summer. It's going to be Waterloo, Seneca Falls, Romulus, and Geneva. and it's going to be for both middle school and high school. So that is a tremendous offering for all of those areas. Each of those districts will be responsible to get their own kids there and pay their own tuition. We're basically just hosting it. One of our principals was named the summer school principal, Tim Baker. So Tim, we're excited about that. And then there is a principal from Waterloo who will be the middle school principal. So we'll have some visitors in our buildings this summer, but to be honest, a lot of it goes back to the difficulty in hiring teachers and the difficulty in hiring people to work in the summer. So by being a regional high school, you still don't have 20 people in a class. You might have 5 or 10, let's call it 10 to 15, but each of us are not having to hire teachers for that. So a high school teacher can handle 15 kids in a class. So, and it is only from 8 to 11, Monday through Thursday.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Maureen. Any questions? All right, thank you, Maureen, for your report. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Miles, I see you're on the phone.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, GEDC report.
Yeah, just getting into the spring motion here finally, and thankfully the rain stopped. That's a good thing for all of us. But we're having some good activity. We just toured somebody that's considering a brewery tap room and looking for space in the area, so that could be promising for either one of those pursuits that they're looking for. And we're starting to pick up in some showings. We're still waiting on movement of internal tenants that are supposed to be moving in one direction or another. So that's kind of putting some things on hold still, but we are seeing some activity.
Where was the brewery going to go?
Well, it's not. There is a distillery already in there.
Yeah.
So that could be a potential space as they're looking to expand as well. Maybe even, change their operation. So that could be a spot. It just depends, it really, and then what the space allows him to do. It's basically a group that's won a bunch of awards. They're kind of doing it out of a small home-based brewery, and I think they're getting the bug to expand.
But you said that, did you mention there'd be a tasting room type of thing? Is that part
Yeah,
of it?
those were the two pursuits they were looking for. Obviously production, and then some kind of a tap room or a tasting room. Whether it's on site with where they're doing production or that's somewhere else,
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but we're gonna try to find them a spot if we can.
Yeah. I think it'd be difficult to get a license. Thank you for providing the rent roll to us. That's useful. Could you add 2 columns? I think the last one we got was the square foot of each space that they're occupying, and then by extension, the cost per square foot of each one of these spaces. I believe it was on the last spreadsheet, so I think it'd be helpful if we had that, just so we can kind of run some comparisons as we look at this.
Yes, just repeat that one more time so I write that
Hey,
down.
you supplied the rent roll and recurring charges spreadsheet for each one of the tenants. On there, there's not a square foot that they're renting. You do have the space, but we don't have a key to figure that out, I don't think. Now maybe we will eventually, but it'd be good to know what the square foot space they have and how much per square foot the rent is. Because as I recall, when we saw it, I think the last time we saw this list was maybe a year ago. There was some quite a few fluctuations, and I know it was based on previous leases and whatnot, but it'd be good for us to include that in our review if you would.
There's a list on.
Do you want that even for the small office suites as well? Because it doesn't really correlate very well when you look at the cost per square foot.
Well, then at least make a note that it's an office space or something, just so we know what the difference is.
I got that.
You got it.
All right, thanks.
There are security deposits held on the financial statement. We got a column that shows whose deposits are on there.
Sure. I'm sure we can.
The other thing was the rental income this month was pretty high by comparison. Was there aging rental income in there, or
Yeah, I believe so.
can we
I
get
think we
an
got a
AR?
large check from somebody.
Okay, can we get an AR to see who's past due? And then we talked about getting a general ledger for the expenses. It looks like the repairs and maintenance expense, which is great. We're keeping up with the building. Just would like to know what those repairs and expenses are. The GL would say.
Yeah,
would tell
we can
that.
dial down on that too.
Gas and propane on the income statement, on the income line, also is a little bit low by comparison. Has all the gas and propane revenue been recognized, or is it
Timing.
just a part of it? Timing?
Yeah, I think it's timing because we had actually found a gas leak there that kind of drove up one bill pertaining to one tenant that we're working through right now.
Understood.
That,
Okay.
wasn't really their fault, but
All right, any other questions of Miles? You're all good? Miles, thank you for joining us. Appreciate the continued work on our behalf.
yep,
All right.
our pleasure. Thanks.
Thanks, Miles.
Tracy, the GEC
All right, I don't-
committee update.
I don't really have an update. I haven't gotten the floor plans yet, so I need to follow up with Dirk on those because we should have had them a few weeks ago. So I don't really have an update here.
Okay. No reports. City council report. Thank you, Amy, for joining us.
Yes, I met yesterday with the grant administrator for the MAP grant, which is Ostrander Consulting. They will be kicking it off in June. So we'll have workshops in June. And then there'll be the training piece component. There's some virtual options we're exploring as well as in-person options for the two training. There'll be 2 different trainings offered to any of the MAP grant participants. And then we'll have a summer application process and get that up and running. So the nice thing in some ways is the consulting firm is also working with Ontario County on some of these. And so it dovetails really nicely because as she's working with already City of Geneva businesses, there's some nice overlays there. So I think we'll be up and running and hopeful on that one. At council earlier this week, there was discussion about food trucks and allowance of food trucks in the city. They had asked that staff move that ahead. We had planned on working through that this summer. We moved it ahead in a month and put a policy together, an ordinance change. Right now, it looks like they're going to be limiting the food trucks to just the lakefront area. There was discussion about, does it help business? Does it hurt business? What evidence is there out there already? This is something that has been studied in many communities. And so what we've decided, or council has asked, is that we limit it to lakefront and have a few designated spaces at lakefront. So there'll be more discussions next month as they go through the second. Short-term rentals, they met last month. And we're all over the place on short-term rentals. We're now trying to take that and turn it into some part of a short-term rental ordinance or permitting process or something of that sort. We're going to continue to lean on what other municipalities around us have done. One thing that happened is it's a spectrum type of issue where you can go occupancy tax, limitations to permitting, to registry. All of these things look a little different and are different levers. I don't know that they have support for a full-on room occupancy tax or even a full permitting process. So we're going to take that meeting again, Zoom in, staff will prepare something that will appear on council, and then they'll start updating those ordinances as well. And then the only other thing is we are in the process of 2 hires that are kind of related to IDA. The first is our assessor. We are at the final phase, interviews have been held. And so we're doing just kind of background and reference on that. I think that process has gone well. We are in partnership with the city of Canandaigua for that assessor position. That does not mean that we use Canandaigua's assessments and ours. I've gotten that concern from a couple of people. Assessment is very much unique to the area you're working through. While a region does impact assessment, it's not we don't use Canandaigua rates, and Canandaigua doesn't use Geneva rates. So we are working with that. And then the Director of Planning and Economic Development, we have applications in and out to the panel. They're reviewing some redacted resumes. We'll be setting interviews in the next 2 weeks, and there. So I think that is kind of where the city's at. There's a lot of other postings right now as we're starting to look at a few retirements, as well as some new positions that were created as part of the budget process.
The infrastructure program, I haven't kept up on this, the expansion of the sewage treatment and stuff. Where's that? We're waiting for a grant, is that correct? Or
Oh, for the
Marsh Creek or?
Marsh, so there's 2 parts. The Marsh Creek Pump Station, we have expanded that. That's coming online. That does not change our capacity. That's just updating our pump station. The capacity grant is the wastewater infrastructure, the WIA grant, whatever that stands for. I can't remember it right now. We have received that funding. We just RFQ'd for initial engineers, and we'll start that build out. That will probably take 24 months or so. But we do have the funds for that. It's just the very initial stage of that.
What's the capacity gain on that? I mean, obviously, we're concerned about that as far as economic development.
Yeah, so the capacity gain, I don't remember exactly. It's significant. And what I do want to be clear with is right now we have some interim steps. If there were a large development that were to come to the city or the town, and we've had this conversation with some of the developers, depending on the size, we would have conversations with them about what we can do in the interim. Yes, we are at or near capacity. At or near capacity at the wastewater treatment plant does not mean 100% because you have to have fluctuation room. Obviously, when things happen, sometimes you need that fluctuation room, and that's why the EPA DEC makes us maintain an 87% full capacity. We are not quite at 87%, but with all of the projected development that we already have, we would be. Again, with projected development, though, there are some projects, unless some of the developers let us know where their projects are. Some people have very wishful development projects that have already come through, and others have some that are going to be coming online. And so we just kind of have to keep that balance.
Okay, thank you.
A wishful one. My son lives in Maryland, and he's more tuned in Geneva than I am most of the time. He sent me a communication about a possible development at the Geneva Country Club, 96 units down there.
Yep.
I mean, would have a big impact on
Yeah. And
infrastructure right there. If that's something like that, and now it's just wishful at this point.
yeah, they're starting to, so it is being advertised and they're starting to have those conversations. The other thing with something like that, and we have met with them a little, is they're phasing it. And so it wouldn't be 96 turning on once they are built. It would be a phased in process. It's their plan. Last I talked to them, I will also say a lot of times, and you guys know this, we talked to them today and tomorrow the plans have to change for a variety of things. So, but the last time we talked to them, it was a phased in process. That's the other factors that we're taking into consideration as these things kind of come online.
Thank you, Amy. Any other questions?
Most places I ever did development work required a connection fee. And there's an opportunity, I guess, to do this with any new development, including the ones we've already piloted. It seems like everybody else does it, and it's part of our cost to provide sewer lines and sewage treatment. Why not have a hookup fee?
Yeah, we are starting to look at that. And then there's other things that have been done with development in other places, not trying to limit the development, but acknowledging the impact of all of these things on everything from recreation to streets, infrastructure, all of those pieces. So I think that's something that we're continuing to look at in the hopes that more are coming online. There are a lot kind of in the hopper, just where they end up, it's going to be part of the fun.
It's good.
All focuses though on infrastructure. Everything focuses on infrastructure, the need for capacity. Years ago, we used to have lots of capacity. And then so I kept on checking on that all the time. And all of a sudden,
Going back to the short-term rental topic, is there a committee for that, or is it just the council's getting information from what we're doing for research at the city hall, and then they're making decisions from that? Is that how it works? Okay, it's a big decision. It's a huge decision, and there's over 1,000 locations just on Airbnb alone in this market, right? So I can't see any proprietor pushing back from an occupancy tax perspective, because you're just a tax collector at that point. And would it deter people from coming to our area? No, it would not. So I don't see any negative to having that occupancy tax. I guess I'll take a look at when council meets and maybe get on the list to talk there, so.
Yeah, I think that's the piece is the biggest, I would say the biggest challenge with the occupancy tax piece is the collection of that occupancy tax and tracking that, because that is no longer done. When this first started, I was slightly involved in another municipality, and Airbnb was like, yeah, we'll collect it for you. Years later, Airbnb says, absolutely not, we're not collecting that for you when it's a small municipality. And so that's the piece that's a challenge. I think that some of them are considering it's just staffing.
I'm confused by that. You're saying that the Airbnb, so when I purchase on Airbnb, I pay all fees and everything up front. So is it just a method of reporting that comes from? I mean, it's very easy. They have arrival reports. They have production reports that are very easy to run. We can request from them, or no?
So no, they won't break it down into small municipalities. So how they set up those reports are by zip codes.
Yeah.
They won't go broader into that zip code.
But the proprietor can report that, correct, or no?
They can if they choose.
And if they choose not to, then they don't have a license to do it here, right?
If we have a registry program where they're licensed.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Track, you'd have to be licensed.
right, and so it's how we build the infrastructure to then get to each of the steps.
Sounds. Any other questions, Amy? Thank you, Amy, for joining us
Thank you.
today. I know you're busy. IDA projects, anything to report, Tracy? Any changes or?
So we'll talk about Nardozzi a little bit later. Things are moving along with that. We had the public hearing on Wednesday. So we're kind of set up to be able to take on a resolution or consider a resolution as soon as he gets through the planning process, which is underway. As I understand, he submitted all his paperwork to the planning board and should be on this month's agenda. I reached out to Neil to ask what the timing of that, like how long is the planning process going to take? And his response was, it depends on what level of seeker they have to do. So it could take a number of months if the county has to go through, because it has to get referred to the county. So if the county wants to or has to do a longer term process, it could take a few months, but if it's a relatively simple seeker, it should only take 2, maybe 3 months. So it just depends on where it gets determined in the seeker. And so, but that has started now. But later on the agenda, we have an agreement extension because the term of the current purchase agreement was May 1st. So we just need to build in time for this planning process, but I feel better about it now that it's submitted and the process is starting. So we'll do the extension later. No updates on Gateway since last month. Just a heads up that we do have a board vacancy coming up. So Rick is terming off. I don't know why I pointed at Lowell. Rick is terming off of
This
the
is my
board.
state, that's his.
I know that too. So we will start a nominating process to look at filling that vacancy and being ready to appoint someone at the end of the fiscal year. So I'm just putting that out there, start putting your thinking caps on as to who might be a good fit. And we'll get the nominating committee together in the coming months to start working through that process. And if you'd like, I can kind of shoot like a little press release out to, if you want to generate some interest from the community, I can shoot a press release out to Steve and see if he'll put it out there, or we can work internally, but I'll get the nominating committee together to talk about that.
Thank you. Any questions? So next, joint audit RFP. This is to go out to accounting firms for our audit requirements. And I think that's attached here, right?
Yes.
Or was included.
Yes.
So we're going to approve this. I'll put a motion up to approve it, then we can discuss it or ask questions. Motion to approve this RFP. Rick, full second. Thank you. Any questions on the RFP, or why don't you introduce it, Tracy, of what we're doing here?
Yeah, so this is just an RFP to go out, as Ann said, to auditing firms for the LDC and the IDA. We're currently not actually in a contract with our current auditing firm, so I think it's really important to be in a contract, especially given some of the timing issues we've been having. So if this is approved, the LDC approved it on Wednesday. This is approved, I'll get it out today or Monday to a bunch of auditing firms that I know do audits for public authorities, and we'll post it on the website. And then hopefully we'll have some responses by the next board meetings and be able to get someone approved, because we really need to get on their schedules if we're going to start. And I'll send it to our current firm and, let them put in a response, but I think it's a responsible thing to do at this point is to RFP it and to see what comes back and make sure that we're in a contract. So this is a 3-year contract that tends to get you a little bit better of a rate in my experience than a 1-year contract, just because they know they have a couple of years after the initial. And yeah, so happy to answer any questions, but that's what we're trying to accomplish here.
It's included in our packet. Anyone see anything that's a red flag? It's
No.
pretty boilerplate.
Yeah, so this is a template that came from Harris Beach. I just adjusted it and Emma took a look at it.
Okay.
So the legal team just seen that.
It's been approved. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so moved. Okay, unfinished business, then Nardozzi agreement extension, which Tracy just explained why we had to do it. They've been kind of having problems getting the planning process going and getting their site plans and stuff, but they are in process now. So I believe this is a 3-month extension is what we decided on.
Well, I did not put a date in there. We can decide on a date. Based on the planning process, if we went out to our August meeting, that would allow for 3 planning board meetings.
Right.
So that might be, and then if it comes up sooner, we can do it sooner, but that gives 3 months for a planning process. Based on normal seeker rules, I think it shouldn't be a very intense seeker, but I am not an expert, so I don't know that.
3 months though was October or August one.
Yeah, and-
Include,
But to our meeting, it's
it would also include, because
So-
they don't have one for May yet, so. it would
Yeah,
include
so
May.
May,
May,
June,
June,
July,
July.
and then our August meeting is the 4th of August, so it might be worthwhile to put the date at August 4th, just to get through our meeting.
It's actually kind of quick. Going through the environmental process, and if the county's involved, they have to do a wetland delineation. There's still some work. So I don't know, might want to add another month. It's
Up to September.
September 1.
So, yeah, our meeting in September is September 8th. So, any strong feelings about the date?
He's had use of this property for a while, but
Yeah.
like Tracy
should we
said,
charge him rent?
At least he's,
Should we charge him rent right now?
no, that was a,
Aren't we getting $1?
yeah. Yeah. At least there's movement now. We were
Yeah.
concerned that there was a movement after it's in dormant and so I think it's good that we're seeing that. So date on September meeting on?
September sounds good to me.
September 1, yeah.
September 1 or 8?
For eight.
No, the 8, include the meeting, so that gives us the opportunity to go that far. I haven't do this again. Okay, it looks like there's a roll call on this. What you want
So
to
we've
do?
got a resolution.
Okay, you're not gonna read the resolution. huh?
I'm not gonna.
All right, so roll call vote. Miss Secretary, would you do that?
That's weird. Anne,
Yes.
RJ is not here. Rick,
Yes.
Ben. Ben. can you-
Yes.
That counts.
Yep.
Irene, yes. Lowell,
Yes.
Jason.
Yes.
All right. So pass, thank you very much. Takes care of that. Geenva Shopping Center, I guess there's some news on that.
Yes, so that did sell at auction and it went to the bank. So the bank bought it at auction. There's a few different options moving forward in regards to the pilot. I think the optimal option here is probably to terminate the pilot and then have a conversation with the bank and let them know like, hey, whatever you do with it next, keep us in mind, you know, if there's future development opportunities or whatnot, just know that we're here and happy to have a conversation. But with the bank owning it, I don't think there's any reason to have it in the pilot.
I agree. I
We
agree.
have a list of all existing pilots.
It was, well, the one for the gas station's gone, so this is right, I mean, that got terminated. This is not for the gas station portion, because that was. It was after, when they built the gas station, Tops went there, they built the gas station, and I think we gave them a pilot just for that.
Yeah.
Property, that corner.
Yeah.
That's gone, and I think, so that's been eliminated, I believe, so this must be for
This is for the actual shopping center.
the center itself, right?
Yeah. But the gas one is that was never terminated. That was still on the books
Okay,
because they actually caught up on those payments recently.
okay, so who, is that part of, so would we be canceling both of them then, if that pilot's still active? I thought it was canceled.
That parcel. Sorry, I just made a map about this. Let me look back at the map. So I was having a hard time figuring out what was in the foreclosure and what was not. Parcels foreclosed. Here we go. Yeah, so all of these parcels were included. Yeah, so we would probably apply it to both.
Okay. All right, any discussion on that, any questions? We'll just to terminate the pilot, I guess, that's what's on the table right now.
Yeah.
Not that we have to vote on.
Emma,
it.
do we need an official resolution for that? We don't hear you, Emma. We heard Ben though, so it's not us. Emma, can you check your microphone? Hold 1 second, I have a headphone.
Hold on 1 second, I have headphone on, there you go, okay.
No,
Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Tracy, it's okay. I just forwarded the taxing jurisdiction letter to Jason because I had.
oh, yeah,
And this, with regards to the pilots that exist, is there any evaluation process that goes on? For example, we approve a pilot and then they have a timeline and then a year from now, 2 years from now, these things have not come to fruition or things on those lines. Is there an evaluation process or once it's approved, it's in there until a change of ownership or something or?
so we collect reporting annually,
Mhm.
and that goes into the Paris reporting. I don't know if the board's done any official evaluation process. I think it's more like when problems arise, there might be a conversation.
That's correct. I don't think it's
so-
anything official,
Yeah,
at least I never remembered.
Should we be more proactive about that? I guess is my question.
Well,
I mean, once a problem occurs, it's kind of a little bit too late, right? So I'm just saying like, and I'm not, I'll use this as an example because we just recently approved the Trinity project. If that project doesn't follow the timelines that were put out there or the execution or the promises that were delivered, how is that? It's our responsibility to make sure that they do that, right? So should we have that type of an evaluation process.
So, I mean, my recommendation would be to do that as part of the annual reporting process. And
Okay.
when you're reviewing the Paris documents, look at those numbers and say, okay, where are they? And if there's a concern, like if someone's in the first 2 or 3 years of the pilot and they haven't reached their hiring goals yet, that's a time to look back at the application. What did they say they were going to do in the first 3 years? If something's 5 years in and they're not their hiring goals, chances are they're not meeting the pilot terms. And that's a time to have obviously have a conversation to say, why aren't you meeting these? And the board has a good amount of discretion to say like, oh, economic conditions changed. So we understand why you've hired 20 people instead of 25 people. And so there's not an automatic trigger. The board has discretion to say, are you meeting your goals? Are you not? And if you're not, why?
Well, I think to speak to Jason's
Yeah.
point, we should probably put it on the agenda for every annual meeting, just to run down the list.
Yeah,
You
sure.
could give the
Yeah.
report just so we could take a look, see.
Yeah, at your annual meeting, you wouldn't necessarily have all of the annual reporting in yet for the Paris documents, but that's a good time to check in and you could check in and see, okay, what do we have so far? And
See if there's any red flags, see if
Yeah.
there's anything that we want to discuss.
keep an eye on, yeah.
We have the data, just gotta look at it.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah, that's the point.
consider it, look at it,
Yeah.
and evaluate it.
There was a lot of promises made and we're making decisions on those promises. So I just want to make sure that we're holding them accountable to it. So. Makes sense.
The assessor he knows when the taxes are being paid, right? And if there's a delay in that, so there's no reason for us to monitor that. Although that would be
Correct, yeah.
primary to me, and then secondary would be employees.
And just some of the things they said in the application come to fruition or in the process of coming to fruition. Okay. So I guess
Emma,
this is not,
Have you know-
is she there?
Tracy,
yet?
can you hear me?
so we've got you.
Right.
Okay. We don't need a resolution. You just need a motion to terminate.
Oh, okay. Well, that was easy.
Okay, so we'll do that.
But I don't know if you wanted me, essentially, we just do an omnibus termination of all the lease back documents, including the pilot, and then we submit it. It gets filed with the county clerk and then we're good to go. And then that property then whoever buys it from Wells Fargo can then come back to the IDA and we can do a new pilot if we wanted to.
And do you need any specific language in the motion?
Nope, just motion to terminate the Geneva Shopping Center pilot. And I don't know what the project was called for the gas station one.
Yeah, so we can,
Urban
maybe the
topics.
motion is just whatever pilots are related to the foreclosed properties.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, the motion's been stated, make the motion, or what the motion is has been stated. I'm gonna make motion, Rick.
Sure.
Sarah?
I'll second it.
Oh, you're on that side of the table, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, all in favor of the motion to terminate any pilots associated with the properties at the Geneva Shopping Center? All in favor, say aye. All right, so moved. Thank you. All right, we're going to go into an executive session now. I need a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of proposed sale or lease of real property. Irene, do you motion?
I sure do.
She does.